Hello everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us for our webinar, Electronic Logging Devices Explained. I'm Audrey Katowski, a marketing specialist at Big Road. The ELD mandate is less than 4 months away. If you haven't started considering your fleet's options for the mandate, now is the time. Do you have questions about the mandate or about ELDs and how they'll affect your fleet? Then this webinar is for you. The goal of today's webinar is to provide you with a better understanding of what the mandate is, what an electronic logging device is, and how it works. First though, I'm going to give you a brief explanation of the ELD mandate, who has to comply, and the exemptions. I'll then move on to the compliance deadlines. After that, I will provide an update on the Canadian ELD mandate and the states that have started to mandate ELDs for their intrastate drivers. Afterwards, I'm going to tackle common misconceptions that fleet managers, dispatchers, and companies' drivers have about electronic logging devices. I'll also provide an explanation of what an automatic onboard recording device is and how it differs from an ELD. I'll then cover some of the ways ELDs can help your fleet save time and money. Afterwards, I'll conclude with how Big Road and our DashLink ELD can help your fleet get on the road to ELD compliance. Before I get started though, I would like to touch upon a few housekeeping items. If you submitted questions prior to the webinar, I will do my best to answer them during the presentation. If you have questions during the webinar, please feel free to enter them into the question box that's located on the GoToWebinar control panel. The questions box is located on the bottom right. I'll also be opening up the floor at the end for any additional questions, so don't get worried if I don't get to them right away. Let's get started. Before jumping right into common misconceptions, let's quickly cover what the ELD mandate is, who has to comply, what the exemptions are, and the latest news on the Canadian ELD mandate and mandates for intrastate drivers. The ELD mandate is a regulation that requires the majority of commercial motor vehicle drivers to run an electronic logging device in their vehicle to record their records of duty status and hours of service. There are two reasons why the FMCSA is mandating electronic logging devices. The first is to make the roads safer by preventing fatigue driving, and to make it easier and faster to accurately track, manage, and share records of duty status data. So who needs to run an ELD? The majority of commercial motor vehicle drivers involved in interstate commerce and who are required to keep records of duty status. That includes Canadian and Mexican drivers crossing the border into the United States who do not qualify for an exemption. Similarly, company drivers and owner-operators who have to run an ELD by the mandate deadline unless they qualify for an exemption as well. Curious to find out if your fleet qualifies for an exemption? Well, there are 5 exemptions your drivers could qualify depending on your fleet circumstances. The first exemption is for drivers who are not currently required to keep records of duty statuses. The next exemption is for drivers who drive less than 8 days during any given 30-day period. However, if your driver logs more than 8 days, so for example, they drive 12 days in a 30-day period, they will need an ELD to be compliant with the mandate. In addition, short-haul drivers who stay within a 100 air-mile radius from their home office are also exempt. Please note though, if your short-haul driver runs outside their 100 air-mile radius, they will need an electronic logging device for that time. Also, it's important to note that fleets with a mix of long-haul and short-haul drivers, that your long-haul drivers will need an ELD by December 18, 2017. There will be no exemptions for mixed driving. Another exemption is for drivers driving a vehicle with the model year dated before 2000, so 1999 or earlier based on the VIN. Please note that this exemption applies to the engine and not the chassis. Vehicles with engines that predate 2000 are exempt because it's too old and its diagnostic ability is not compatible with new technology. Finally, drivers who are part of a drive-away towaway operation and the CMV being driven as part of the shipment, so for example an empty vehicle for sale, lease, or repair, will also qualify for an exemption. Please note though, if they're driving a trailer with empty vehicles on it for sale like a normal shipment, then they will not be exempt. The only drivers who qualify for this exemption are drivers who are driving a vehicle that is empty and for sale. If your fleet doesn't qualify for one of the exemptions, then you will need to follow the deadlines outlined on this slide. As a reminder, the ELD final rule was published on December 16, 2015, and gave fleets and drivers 2 years to select an AOBRD or ELD solution. Not sure what an AOBRD is? No problem, I'll cover it more in depth in the next couple of slides. Anyways, a majority of interstate drivers who need to be ELD compliant need to be by December 18th of this year. More specifically, fleets using paper logs or electronic logs need to transition to electronic logging devices by the mandate deadline. However, drivers who transition to AOBRDs before the mandate deadline qualify for the AOBRD grandfather clause, allowing them to continue using those devices for an additional 2 years. Please note, though, by December 16, 2019, all drivers and fleets, including those using AOBRDs, must transition to ELDs. Have you heard the latest news on the Canadian ELD mandate? Just last week, American Trucker reported that the Canadian ELD mandate should be issued by the end of this year. The Canadian ELD mandate is going to be similar to the FMCSA's mandate and should follow a similar implementation timeline. In Canada, the Canadian ELD mandate will be published in 2 stages, one as the proposed rule and the second time as the final rule. If the Canadian government is able to follow the proposed timeline, then the final rule will be published in December of this year. This will give Canadian fleets and drivers until December 2019 to implement a solution. Similar to the FMCSA's ELD implementation timeline, AOBRDs will be grandfathered for an additional 2 years, allowing Canadian fleets and drivers that implement them before December 2019 to continue using them until December 2021. As trusted compliance experts, we're going to do our best to keep you updated on the status of the Canadian ELD mandate through our Big Road blog, our social media channels, and our monthly newsletter. Canada is not the only place looking to implement ELDs. Some states are starting to mandate them as well. For instance, Florida is considering to mandate ELDs for their interstate drivers, require them to be ELD compliant by December 31st, 2018. The only exemption allowed in Florida's mandate is for drivers transporting placardable amounts of hazardous materials. Similarly, the Lone Star State has changed its hours of service rules to require its interstate drivers to run electronic logging devices by December 19, 2019. Overdrive reported that the only drivers that qualify for an exemption under the Texan mandate are agricultural drivers who drive within a 150 air mile radius of the product's point of origin or distribution during harvest season. However, infrastructure reported that drivers with vehicles older than the year 2000, short-haul drivers, and drivers part of a drive-away tollway operation will still be exempt under the Texan mandate, just like the federal ELD mandate. It's likely that more states will also implement ELDs for their interstate drivers too. Be sure to watch our blog, our social media channels, and our monthly newsletter, as we'll do our best to keep you informed of any new developments. Now, with a good understanding of what the ELD mandate is, it's time to dispel some of the common misconceptions about electronic logging devices. To help clear up some of the confusion, I'm going to tackle some of the most commonly asked questions we get at Big Road. My drivers have e-logs. Aren't those ELDs? An e-log is short for electronic logbook. It functions similar to your paper log, except you're logging your hours on an app or a tablet. E-logs can help drivers avoid violations and form and manner errors with clean, easy-to-read logs. They're also usually fully editable and do not keep an edit history that DOT officers can see during inspections. Unfortunately, e-logs are not compliant with the ELD mandate. This is because they don't connect to the vehicle's engine, which is one of the requirements of the ELD mandate. Please note, though, that e-logs like the Big Road mobile app are ELD compliant if you sync it with our DashLink ELD. To be compliant with the mandate, your fleet will need to be using an FMCSA certified device like our DashLink ELD, which connects to the vehicle's engine to record data. My fleet just got AOBRDs. Now we can't use them after December 18, 2017. First, I want to provide a quick explanation of what an AOBRD is and why this grandfather clause is so important. An automatic onboard recording device, also known as an AOBRD, is a piece of hardware that connects to the engine of a vehicle to record a driver's hours of service and other information. It functions in a similar manner as an ELD. AOBRDs have been around since the 1980s. However, as a result of the device operating standards being set in the 80s, AOBRDs record and display a lot less data. The grandfather clause allows fleets who are using AOBRDs before the mandate deadline of December 18, 2017 to continue using them until December 16, 2019. This gives fleets with drivers who are apprehensive about ELDs or just less tech savvy more time to get used to engine-connected logging. This makes AOBRDs the ideal transition in between paper logs and electronic logging devices, as the AOBRD functions like an ELD but with less restrictions. If your fleet is interested in AOBRDs, it's important that you implement them before December 18th of this year, as they'll no longer be available to purchase after the mandate deadline. You would not even be able to purchase one if you wanted to. Also, motor carriers will only be allowed to install AOBRDs on existing trucks after the mandate deadline. They cannot install AOBRDs on new trucks in their fleet. So to answer this common misconception, this fleet could continue using AOBRDs after the mandate deadline so long as they implemented them before December 18th of this year. So then, what is the difference between an AOBRD and an ELD? First, as shown in the chart, AOBRDs record a lot less data. Moreover, some of the data can be manually entered or edited. Another noticeable difference is in how both devices record locations. AOBRDs only record locations during a change in duty status. In contrast, an ELD will record locations automatically whenever there is a change in duty status, every 60-minute intervals while driving, whenever the engine is turned on and off, whenever the driver signs in and out, and at the end and start of yard moves and personal conveyance. And with the exception of personal conveyance, all of this is recorded within 1 mile of accuracy. Another noticeable difference between the two devices is how much editing can be done to a driver's log. AOBRDs allow for minor edits and do not readily display the edit history to inspectors. In contrast, ELDs record who makes the edit, when they made the edit, why they made the edit, and also keeps both versions, the original and the edited copy, to display during roadside inspections. So what does record and display less data actually mean? Let's compare these mock-ups of an AOBRD log and what an ELD log look like for the same day. As you can see, both logs include the driver, carrier, trailer, shipment information, and the driver's duty graph. The AOBRD records location, time, duration, and duty status. The ELD log records and displays far more information about your driver's day. Not only does the ELD record everything that the AOBRD does, it also displays and records the ELD status, CMV status, and the location during every 60 minutes of driving. Plus, all the events on the ELD include the time, type, location, odometer reading, engine hours, and event origin. And the event origin refers to whether the event was automatic or triggered by the driver. Also, it's important to note that ELDs will call attention to any unidentified driving by sending a warning to drivers when they log into the device. This is because ELDs are required to record all vehicle miles and ensure that they're accounted for so that driver logs are accurate and true. ELDs won't let my fleet correct mistakes on driver logs. Because ELDs are far more restricted than E-logs or AOBRDs, there's a fair bit of confusion about what can be edited on them. First, it's important to note that editing is far more locked down to prevent the falsification of driver logs. For instance, drivers will no longer have the ability to edit their drive times with electronic logging devices. Similarly, once a driver has submitted their log, they can't make any changes to it. However, office staff, such as administrative users, can make limited edits to driver logs to correct mistakes or add missing information. Only fleet administrators can make an edit to a submitted log. After the edit, drivers will need to verify the edit and resubmit their log. However, as was mentioned earlier, all edits with ELDs will be visible to roadside inspectors, as the devices will keep the original unedited copy and the new updated copy, and both can be viewed. Also, a record is kept of who made the change, why they made the change, and the date and time of the change. I heard ELDs record everything. What about my driver's right to privacy? As mentioned previously, ELDs connect to a vehicle's engine to record miles and other engine data to create your driver's logs. It does not record what they're doing in the cab or what they're saying. ELDs are not designed to surveil your drivers. They only record engine data to create clean, accurate driver logs. If your drivers are worried about their privacy, we recommend that you explain how an ELD works and what it records to help them better understand the technology. Won't the DOT be able to access my driver's logs at any time? This question comes up frequently. Fleets and drivers alike are concerned that the ELD is constantly recording them and reporting violations to the DOT in real time. The truth is, the government will not have access to your fleet's logs unless they request it in an inspection or an audit and you provide them with that access. Also, ELDs record vehicle miles, drive times, and other data to create your driver's logs. With most ELDs, any potential violations will be sent to the driver or fleet as notifications to give them the opportunity to correct those errors and not to the government to get your driver in trouble. Moreover, no one has access to this information except you and the people that you grant access to. I heard only ELDs hardwired into the cab are compliant with the mandate. Some of the fleets out there think that only expensive hardwired solutions are compliant with the mandate. Thankfully, that's not true. In fact, ELDs do not need to be hardwired into the cab at all. They can both be hardwired or a plug-and-play solution available on the market, and whatever you choose will depend on the need of your fleet. However, it's worth noting that a hardwired solution is usually more expensive and requires a professional installation. It also usually integrates into a telematics solution. Their initial costs can be a lot higher, as are their monthly subscription fees. On the other hand, a plug-and-play solution is a solution that does just that. It plugs into the vehicle and works with your driver's existing device, either a cell phone or tablet. For instance, our solution, the DashLink ELD, is a plug-and-play device that can be installed by your drivers within minutes. Even better, it's a flexible device that can be moved from vehicle to vehicle with no expensive installation required. DashLink even pairs with your driver's device, such as their Android or Apple cell phone or tablet, making it easier for drivers to use and saving you from having to go out and buy proprietary equipment. Also, plug-and-play solutions like our DashLink ELD are usually significantly cheaper than hardwired solutions. I heard ELDs can shut down trucks remotely. For anyone who's nervous about the idea that someone could take control of their vehicle remotely via the ELD, they need not worry. Electronic logging devices will not be able to shut down your vehicle remotely. ELDs do not have the ability to override the driver's control. Your driver will always be in full control of their CMV. In fact, no one has the ability to shut down trucks remotely through an ELD. It's not what electronic logging devices are designed to do. The ELD simply reports information to create clean, accurate driver logs. My fleet doesn't need ELDs. OOIDA is going to challenge the mandate again. It's a common misconception we hear at Big Road that fleets and drivers will not have to get an ELD because OOIDA is going to challenge the mandate. However, this isn't true. OOIDA has appeared to exhaust their options from challenging the mandate. Recently, OOIDA brought their lawsuit to the Chicago-based 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. They felt that the current mandate violated a driver's constitutional protection against warrantless searches. While the case was heard last fall, the court still ruled in favor of the DOT. OOIDA appealed, asking for a rehearing, but their request was denied. Then last April, OOIDA made one more attempt to get the ELD mandate overturned. They asked the Supreme Court to review their case. In their appeal, OOIDA said that the mandate would have implications outside of the trucking industry, saying that the mandate would be applicable to millions of people going to work under constant electronic surveillance without warrants. However, the Supreme Court has declined to hear the appeal, meaning that the mandate will move forward as originally intended. That means if your fleet does not qualify for one of the previously mentioned exemptions, your drivers will need ELDs by December 18th of this year. ELDs will reduce the number of the number of hours my drivers have to drive. This is another common misconception we hear at Big Road. A lot of fleet managers are concerned about how electronic logging devices will reduce the number of hours drivers have to drive in a day. However, with ELDs, it's more likely that your drivers may actually find that they have more time to drive. This is because ELDs provide accurate to-the-minute drive times. Your drivers are no longer having to round to the nearest 15 minutes to account for tasks that may have only taken 8. Moreover, it saves your drivers from having to stop and fill out their paper logs, as the ELD will do a majority of the work for them. Also, it's worth noting that ELDs will not change the number of hours that are available to drive under the FMCSA's Hours of Service rules. ELDs will prevent, though, drivers from flexing hours or moving things around to create more drive time, as this was the main reason that ELDs were brought in the first place. That being said, no one will be able to do this anymore, so it's going to create a level playing field. It's important to remember that the ELD mandate is going to affect everyone's fleet, and not just yours. Now that we've debunked some of the common misconceptions about electronic logging devices, it's time to explain how ELDs can actually help save your fleet time and money. Electronic logging devices save time for your drivers by automatically recording drive times, locations, and other data to simplify the logging process and to reduce the amount of paperwork they have to complete. ELDs also save time for your back office staff by automating data collection and storing it in a centralized location. This gives office staff instant access to driver logs, helping them avoid manual data entry and saving your fleet man-hours. Lastly, electronic logging devices help your fleet managers and safety managers by automatically auditing driver logs for errors and violations. In addition, the information collected by ELDs can help fleets run reports on their vehicle hours and mileage, simplifying the reports, log auditing, and payroll. Electronic logging devices can also help simplify the logging process. ELDs simplify the logging process with automated data collection. It saves your drivers from having to stop and fill out paperwork. Also, most ELDs audit logs for potential errors, which will help you avoid violations and fines. Lastly, paper logs often require drivers to round to the nearest 15 minutes for tasks that may have only taken 6. And with a paper log, it's very easy to miscalculate your hours and accidentally go over. Something as small as drawing a line in the wrong spot can cost your fleet thousands. As ELDs do a lot of the recording for your drivers, their logs will have precise, accurate times that are not rounded to the next 15 minutes. ELDs will also help improve your fleet's CSA score. Electronic logging devices will have a positive effect. This is because they create for your fleet clean, accurate, inspection-ready driver logs. Electronic logging devices automatically create a portion of your driver's logs for them. Your drivers will no longer have to guess how much time they have left or accidentally mark a wrong part of the graph. Plus, DOT officers are less likely to nitpick driver logs if they're clean and easy to read. ELDs also help fleets avoid costly fines and violations by automatically automating your driver's logs and giving them an opportunity to correct them before they're caught in a roadside inspection. Lastly, ELDs store driver logs and other supporting documents in a centralized location, making them easier to retrieve during a surprise audit. Do you have more questions about electronic logging devices? We can help. Big Road is an industry leader providing hours of service compliance solutions. We were founded in 2011 with the goal of helping drivers track their record of duty statuses while helping them ensure they are running in compliance with complicated and constantly changing hours of service rules. From here, we've quickly grown into a fleet-friendly business that offers solutions to support back-office staff, dispatchers, safety managers, and fleet managers to better manage their drivers and safety and ultimately improve their business operations. Whether you're a passenger carrier or a large fleet comprised of owner-operators or company drivers, we help fleets of all types and sizes. In fact, over 30,000 fleets rely on Big Road to remain compliant and to improve their operations. And now, with the electronic logging device mandate fast approaching, we're helping fleets get on the road to compliance with a solution that's easy to use, fast to roll out, and affordable. Our solutions are the Big Road mobile app, the Big Road web app, and our ELD Dash Link. If your fleet's looking for an ELD solution, we suggest that your drivers download the Big Road mobile app. It's our electronic logbook and hours of service management application. We'll give your drivers a chance to try the app and get a feel for e-logs. Our app is completely free for drivers to use. To get the app, simply download it to Apple or an Android device, cell phone, or tablet. The Big Road mobile app takes the guesswork out of logging for your drivers. They can easily create inspectable, error-free logs, all while accurately tracking their hours of service. Your drivers also don't have to worry about wrong calculations, driving over their hours, state-specific rules, or form or manner errors, as our app will proactively notify them of an issue. If your drivers are already using the Big Road mobile app, we suggest that you give our Big Road web app a try. It's our real-time fleet management tool that helps fleet managers and office staff better manage their drivers while getting their fleet on the road to ELD compliance. From the Big Road web app, you'll be able to see where all your drivers are on the map and monitor their hours of service compliance. You can also easily see who's at risk of a violation and reach out to them to correct it before the issue impacts your safety score. Both the Big Road web app and our Big Road mobile app connect with our DashLink ELD. DashLink is our solution to help fleets run in compliance with the ELD mandate, and it's already a favorite among drivers and fleets. It's the most affordable solution available with no upfront hardware fees. It's a simple plug-and-play device that can be installed in minutes, with no expensive installation required. Even better, it's a flexible solution that lets you decide when you want to run in full ELD compliance. For instance, did you know that if you implement DashLink before the mandate deadline, you can run it as a compliant AOBRD? Our device is compliant with Section 395.15, meaning if you implement DashLink before December 18th of this year, you will qualify for the AOBRD grandfather clause and give your drivers an extra 2 years to run under the more flexible AOBRD rules. Plus, you decide when you want to flip the switch and run under the ELD rules. This is a great option for drivers and fleets who are apprehensive about the mandate or just less tech savvy in general. That concludes the presentation part of our webinar. If you have any questions about the information we just covered or about Big Road, please type them into the question box now. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I have a few things you can take advantage of. If you're interested in learning more about Big Road solutions and would like a personalized demo for your fleet, please send us an email at sales@bigroad.com. And if you haven't done so already, get started with a free 30-day trial of Big Road. Getting into the system and playing around with the features and functionality is the best way to decide if Big Road is the right fit for you. To do this, visit www.bigroad.com/get-started. We also suggest that your drivers download the Big Road mobile app. They'll have a chance to try out the app and see how it works. To get the app, they can visit the Google Play Store or iTunes Store and search for Big Road. Lastly, once we've wrapped up questions, you'll be prompted to complete a survey. If you could take a few seconds to fill this out, we'd appreciate it. It lets us know how we did and how we can improve our webinars for the future. Let's dive into questions. Ernie asks, do you foresee drive-away, tow-away transportation going to ELDs in the future? Currently, drivers who are part of a drive-away, tow-away operation and they're driving a vehicle that is empty and for lease, sale, or repair will qualify for an exemption. We can't speculate whether the FMCSA will change this exemption. However, we will keep customers posted on any developments on our blogs, social media channels, and our monthly newsletter. Alberto asks, who will have access to driver logs and who can make edits? The only people with access to your driver logs is whoever you grant permission to in your fleet. Government officials do not have access unless you give it to them during an inspection or an audit. For edits, drivers can make limited edits to their logs with ELDs. Once submitted, though, fleet managers can make edits to correct or add missing information. Afterwards, the driver must review and verify the changes made to their log. Please note that ELDs will not allow recorded drive times to be edited. Also, ELDs keep a copy of the original log and the updated log to display during roadside inspections. They also record who made the edits, why they made the edits, and when the edits were made. Debbie asks, define the short haul exemption rule and how a driver/truck is to handle a transition beyond a 100 air mile radius should they exceed the short haul exemption once or twice. The short haul exemption is for drivers who drive within a 100 air mile radius of their home office. The moment they drive outside that 100 air mile radius, your drivers will need an electronic logging device to be compliant with the ELD mandate. Don asks, can we monitor drivers from the app on our cell phone? The Big Road mobile app is our electronic logbook. It syncs with DashLink to become a compliant ELD solution. It doesn't monitor your drivers though. The Big Road web app allows you to track your driver's locations in HOS compliance. You also have instant access to your driver's log. This is only available on computers. Can companies that are grandfathered until 2019 conduct business as usual, or does their existing AOBRDs have to comply with new requirements? Fleets that have purchased AOBRDs compliant with Section 395.15 and they've installed them before the mandate deadline of December 18, 2017 can continue using them until December 16, 2019. After this date, though, all drivers and fleets using AOBRDs must transition to electronic logging devices. That's all the questions that we have time for. The remaining questions will be answered on the Big Road blog. Thank you for attending today's webinar. Be sure to watch your email for a link to our blog where you can find a recording of today's webinar and the answers to today's questions. Have a great day. Bye.